All right, welcome back to the Home Service Expert. Today we have Brandon Turner. This guy is a legend. Brandon's an expert in real estate marketing investments. He's the founder of Open Door Capital and previous host of Bigger Pockets podcast, which is probably the largest podcast for real estate. He's the best-selling author of several books, including the book on rental property investing and how to invest in real estate and more. Brian, what's going on today, brother?
Dude, I'm so pumped and honored to be here. I gotta tell you, when you came on my show and you came on the Better Life podcast, I've interviewed 500 plus people in my life. That was one of my favorite, if not my favorite episodes I've ever done. I'm not just blowing smoke either. It was such a phenomenal time talking to you, and I was like, man, how did I not how do I get into this guy's world more? So then when you invited me on here, man, that was it's an honor. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, you've done a lot in your life, and it's kind of interesting to me because don't take this the wrong way, but I just couldn't live in Hawaii. Like there's people that would give their life like that is their mecca, and I get it. But that's not where I wanted to start. I wanted to go into like what got you into business, what got you into real estate, what got you into podcasting. What are you up to today? What do you look forward to in the future?
Yeah, man, that's great. Okay. Yeah. So let me tackle the Hawaii thing. You're 100% right. I actually struggle with it too. You know, it's kind of everyone's dream is like, oh, I want to get financial freedom so I can go live on a beach. Like that's like a common like theme that people have. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's cool, but what do they call that? The hedonic treadmill, right? Like no matter how good something in life is, like it becomes normal really quick. And so Hawaii is just normal, but more inconvenient, right? Like it's 6 hours to do anything. So we spend about half the year off island, maybe a third of the year to half of the year off island. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, yeah, people who have that whole goal is just to retire. Like, man, if you can retire early, like you won't retire early. You can't. Like, it's just like the ironic nature of things. You just couldn't do it. You couldn't just sit around. So anyway, so yeah, my story, let me go back. I got kind of a few phases and you can feel free to interrupt me and ask questions anywhere. I mean, blue collar Midwest family. I grew up in Minnesota. My dad's a butcher. Mom did daycare in our house. So very like lower blue collar. You know, went to college, kind of worked my way through 5 different colleges, trying to stay out of student loan debt, a bunch of community colleges and all that. Got done with it and decided I'd go to law school because I didn't really know what else to do. And as I'm studying for law school, I bought a house. Back then it was like 06, right? 06, 07. They were just throwing mortgages at anybody. So like, hey, 18-year-old kid with no credit, no income, get a mortgage. And so I got one, bought a house, and then I sold it. I first rented out all the bedrooms and I sold it. And I was like, shoot, I just made like 25 grand. Like 25 grand was more money than any person I had ever known had ever made on anything. Like that was such a tremendous amount of money. And I was like, this real estate thing's kind of cool. I mean, the starting salary for a lawyer was only like $50K if you didn't get in one of the top schools. So I'm like, maybe I'll just do the real estate thing. So that's what I did. I jumped in and just started buying little, just dumpy, crappy little houses. And my wife and I would just fix them up and, you know, be at the painting the unit till 2 a.m. and renting it out to a tenant the next morning at 8 a.m. And it was just chaos for a few years as we just struggled to hit that like financial freedom number. But, you know, we did it. By 27, I was retired. And yeah, I watched a lot of Law and Order for a few months before realizing that retirement wasn't for me. And I jumped back into kind of the next phase, which ended up becoming the internet entrepreneurship phase. But anything you want to go in on that before I move on?
Well, I still feel like you're kind of in the real estate world. I mean,
Yeah.
What you're just more of a guru now, and I think you've become more of a influencer, but you're still doing real estate, right?
Yeah, you know, I did, you know, when I started teaching real estate online, it was because I hit 27, I had like 30 rental units making 3 or 4 grand a month. And I'm like, I don't need to do real estate anymore. I'm done. So I just like sat on a couch, watched Law and Order, and I started blogging on the internet. That turned into getting basically a job. I mean, there was equity there, but it was a job working for Bigger Pockets, which was a tiny little website with no employees at the time. I jumped at that. We started the podcast, Josh and I, who was he's the founder. He was just a guy had a blog in his, basement. And together we started the podcast and it just blew up. ended up becoming, like you said, one of the bigger podcasts in the world, 100+ million downloads. But yeah, the idea of the guru, right? Like the real estate investor who's out there selling education and not actually doing it, that always plagued me. So like, I always made sure I was still investing a little bit. And then I actually remember the exact spot I was on stage at this big conference. There was 1,000 like syndicators, like big real estate investors with thousands of units. And they're out there in the audience. And here I am on stage with my 30, 35 units, something like that. And the only reason I was there is because I had a big podcast, a big mouth, and I could help sell tickets. I didn't deserve to be on that stage. And I remember just thinking that, like, shoot, I do not deserve to be here. And I made a commitment that day. I was like, I want to be back here someday and deserve it. So I went home and I jumped into real estate heavy. I built a company, hired a bunch of employees. We can talk about that process. Made a bunch of mistakes, but ended up acquiring we just crossed the $1 billion mark. So 13,000 units, $1 billion. We've raised $400 million just from normal people across the internet and across the world. And hired 150 employees in that. That's where I am today. So now I'm not doing the podcast, the Bigger Pockets one anymore, because it wasn't mine. I mean, at the end of the day, it was somebody else's. Ended up being private equity, and that's great for them. I love the team, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So started a new podcast, still buying real estate. I'm going to buy probably 40 million this year. And that's my story, man.
I got a lot of questions.
Yeah. Let's dig in.
So you explain to me, how do you make money in real estate? There's so many different, I was involved with Highest Cash Offer, Jared, Carlos Reyes back in the day,
Yep.
Hillary, like Danielle,
Yep.
smart people that have done well in the real estate industry. But I know there's people that are like, I'm trying to think. I know a lot of the guys, they would buy all my leads. And there was times we were getting 100 leads a day. And I know the guys that said they had such a high conversion rate, they never asked for a refund. See, I've had the greatest honor of knowing some of the best people in that because they knew how to do business. And so they never asked for a refund. They never said the leads are down. They didn't care. There was one of their lead sources. You know what I mean? It was like, that was one of their lead sources out of 100. And they were just like, yeah, well, pay, it's good. So I guess, what's your investment portfolio strategy?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of ways to make money in real estate, right? Like early on, the way that I usually teach it for those who are just like not super familiar with how real estate investing works, there's like 4 primary ways you make money, right? There's cash flow. And this is true for business too, I suppose. But there's cash flow, which is like the profit you make every month. And then there's the appreciation, like your property should go up in value over time. Obviously there's dips and there's times where it slows down, but if you look over a long period of 30 years, there's never been a time in American history that real estate didn't go up pretty significantly over a 30-year period or 20-year period. I think even a 10-year period has never not been higher than it was 10 years earlier. I think I read that stat recently. So you make money by appreciation. That's the second way. You make money by paying off the loan. This one people don't think a lot about, but almost all real estate's bought with a loan. And then of course, whatever's left over after paying the mortgage and all your bills, that's your cash flow. But the loan gets paid off every single year. So imagine you bought a property, had no cash flow. You broke even every month for 30 years. It never went up in value. You bought it for $1 million, it's still worth $1 million. But if you had a loan that got paid off every month, 30 years from now, or however long your loan was for, it's at 0, which means now you're a millionaire, right? So like you automatically build wealth every single solitary month by paying off the loan. That's the third way. And the fourth way is just by tax savings. Like you can actually offset your earned income from other things. I make a lot of money from book royalties. I sell, 500,000 books a year, something like that. I make good money from book royalties. I don't pay taxes typically on that book royalties, even though it has nothing to do with real estate. I mean, other than the real estate books, but there are unique strategies for offsetting income. So it's kind of like making money because it's money that you're not losing to the government. So you make money in those 4 ways. Now I do it in a slightly different, I do it the same way. I just do it at a much larger scale. So today I raise money from just normal people who have money, like accredited investors. So wealthier people, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, a lot of actual real estate investors. They chip in, everyone puts in like 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand, whatever. We'll raise 10, 20, $30 million in a fund, and then we'll go buy 10 properties. Then over time, they get the majority of the profits. They'll get 70%, sometimes 80, even 90% of the profits. And I'll just get 10, 20, or 30. It just depends on the deal and how good it is. And so I'm just betting that getting, call it 20% of $1 billion portfolio is better than me doing it on my own. And so by raising the capital, I don't mind giving away 80%.
You're diversified.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm spread out across, we've got almost 100 deals across our portfolio, mostly mobile home parks. That's kind of been our bread and butter. I like mobile home parks. We can talk about that if you want, but I've been a big fan of mobile home communities. I got some self-storage, got apartment complexes in there. I do a little bit of private lending and mortgage stuff in there, but the primary amount of that, most of it is mobile home parks. Unlike most, and no, I shouldn't even say unlike it, because like most businesses, I get paid at the end. Like the bulk of my money goes at the end. My investors get most of the money up front. And when you own a big business, typically your employees get a lot of the money up front and it gets reinvested, but you sell your company someday and that's when the owner gets paid big. Exact same thing for me. In fact, one thing that's a little different is I actually don't make any money really from my $1 billion portfolio. And that sounds insane. But the reason why is because my salary, I get a salary just like a business owner would, but I donate that to charity because of what I'll say in a second. So I donate the salary to charity. I then only make money after the investors have gotten their, like what's called the preferred return. Like the investors get paid first. And that takes years for them to get most of their, to get their preferred return. That can take years. So once they get their money back, or
5
a good chunk of it, what was that?
What's the play? How long do I leave my money in?
Yeah,
Is it
typically,
a 5 year?
Could be 5. Our aim is 5 years. You have your money back. That's our goal. Now it might be because you have your money back because we sold the property. Could be because you have your money back because we refinanced it and we got all your money back. But typically we say 5 years is what we aim for. I think the current slowdown in the market's probably going to add a year on some of our deals for that. It might be 6 or 7. But yeah, the goal is to get people their money back. And the best thing is if you don't sell, imagine this, Tommy, I get you your money back. You put in 250 grand. 5 years from now, you get your 250 back, but you still own the deal with me. Like we're still in the deal forever. And so a lot of our deals, we call them forever funds. There's no plan to ever sell ever. We just, every few years we refinance, we distribute more capital because you own, let's say you are the only investor, you own 70, 80% of it. So you get a big chunk of money every time we refinance. And the great part of that is it's tax-free. You don't pay money on refinances. So we can just keep refinancing every 5 years and you get more and more and more money. And you never have to pay taxes on that. You only pay taxes when you sell.
Borrowed, yeah.
Yeah.
Until you sell the property. Now, what about I got some questions. So
yeah.
I was just thinking, you got a 5-year period, 7-year.
Yeah.
I've got all these PE deals that typically after 5 to 7 years, your money's going to triple. So you put in, now literally, like we know the rule of 72 and typically 7 years at 10% return, annualized compounding, I'm going to double.
Yep.
But with PE, most of the funds have proven over time that they could do a little bit better than triple the money. Yep. How does yours compare to that?
Yeah, I would say it's generally considered, real estate would be generally considered more stable or maybe more predictable is a better word.
Yeah.
Than most private equity. And I don't have all the data in front of me to back that up, but I would say generally speaking, when people invest in private equity or venture capital or any of that, there's a percentage that they know are going to do really well and a percentage that they know are not going to do so well. With real estate, it's much more predictable. I'm not saying we can perfectly guarantee it, but like we can see the trends that real estate tends to appreciate by 3% per year. The value of a property. Doesn't mean your money's making 3% per year. Hopefully you're making a lot more than that. We probably average about 15%. Our target is 15% of an average annual return. So if you're in the deal for 5 years, that's roughly doubling your money. It's not quite that, I don't think, if you look at the compounding of it. But that's kind of our target there. But again, the idea is we're not saying, hey, some of the deals are going to go to 0, some are going to go to 10x. Some are going to just be at 3x, and we're going to average here. We're just like, we shouldn't lose any, like there shouldn't be a loss, ideally. Now, again, there are people who lose in real estate. I don't want to make that claim. I hope I never lose in real estate, but that's probably how that fits in there. So most people who invest heavily in real estate, it's because they like the predictability or they're just diversifying. They say, hey, I love the more ups and downs of venture capital or private equity. But I like the stability of knowing it's a real asset, that it's just sitting there. It always going to be in demand. If somebody's bad at managing it, they'll just have another manager come in. It's just much more stable.
What would you say? You made the comment that you were on stage and you felt like an imposter.
Yeah.
How many coaches do you know? How many people that aren't making it in the real world that literally are all over social media? They're writing books. They're selling courses. What percentage would you say? Like, I still own A1 Garage Doors. I'm still the CEO. I'm still fighting the fighter, the greater fight. So you can't really argue with the results. They're everywhere. But I'm just curious because a lot of people they decide I want to teach now, but they never really made it in the real world.
Yeah, here's what I see in real estate. There's this guru cycle, we'll call it. And what happens is somebody will do well in real estate. Now that's a subjective kind of term, but like, let's say they buy a dozen Airbnbs and they're doing pretty well with those Airbnbs. They're making $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month in profit. And then the Airbnb game changes. And that investor, because real estate goes in cycles, and all of a sudden they can't do Airbnb anymore. And they're like, oh shoot, what do I do? Oh, I'll go teach it. So now they're not doing the thing that made them successful. They're teaching the thing that made them successful. And ironically, that thing doesn't work anymore. And so they're doing that. They're not doing the thing anymore. They're teaching it. And they have great stories and testimonials of themselves saying, hey, no, this is literally what I did. It just doesn't work that way anymore. I don't know percentage wise, but I'd guess that half of the people online teaching this stuff is in that category. You also find a lot, and this is true in business too, is a lot of people have just done very few things. They buy their first 3 properties and they're like, well, that's fun, but I could teach it and make a lot more. And it's true. You can make more teaching than you can buy 3 properties, but you're not going to become a billionaire by teaching it. And my ambitions, not that I really care about being a billionaire, but I want to give away $1 billion of my life. Like, that's literally my life goal. If I could give away $1 billion, it means that I earn more than that, which sounds pretty cool. And so, my ambitions are a lot higher than just what I can make a few, 100,000 or a few $1,000,000 by teaching it. In fact, the education program I have, it's called the Better Life Tribe. We got 1,200 people in it, paying $300 a month. That's a complete charity. So I don't take a salary from that either. I donate all of it because it just goes towards that. So I don't want to be known as the guy who made money off of education. Probably you don't either. You want to be known as the guy who made money in business, and therefore you can believe you. And that's why I enjoy talking to you.
Yeah, no, this is killer, man. I love this stuff. How much do you think your personal brand, because of the podcast? How much? I talk about this a lot because A1 made my personal brand. Now I'm trying to repay A1 for making me who I am. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, yeah. Personal brand is it's everything that I've done. There are people who have done it and built big portfolios. Dude, I have this I'm at this conference one time, and I'm speaking there, different conference, I'm speaking there, and this conference organizer, the guy in charge, comes up to me with this old guy. This guy's probably 80 years old. He walks up to me and he says, hey, Brandon, I want you to meet Charles, or whatever the guy's name is. He's like, this is Charles. Charles does what you do. You guys are in the same game. And I'm like, oh, great. And then the guy, the conference organizer says, yeah, Charles, Brandon here has raised $100 million this year to buy real estate. That was like, I raised $100 million that year. And I just spoken on that. And the guy looked at me with this half shock and half anger. And he said this, he said, Brandon, I've been raising capital for 50 years straight, every week, traveling across the country and across the world, speaking at events, going to seminars, hosting my own seminars. And I have not raised that much. And you did it in a year. He's like, how'd you do that? And I was like, Instagram. It's silly, but it's he was so he realized he was born in the wrong era. He spent his whole life to do what I did in a year. And granted, I didn't build my brand in a year. It took me a decade online of podcasting and writing books and working social media a lot. But yeah, man, social media is a superpower. And when you can get 1 million people or more to know, like, and trust you, you can do anything you want. With that, if somebody, I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. If somehow my account, my Instagram got hacked and somebody was like, you want that back? $1 million. Done. If that was the only option. I think there's other options that it's worth much more than $1 million to me. Much, much, much more.
Oh,
So I'm
dude,
a huge fan.
I'm learning a lot more every day about this stuff. And listen, it's eyeballs, especially if you're out to do the right thing and you're out to help people. I mean,
Yeah.
end of the day, I feel like I've got a moral obligation. You know, Dan Martell was talking about his trainer, and his trainer super chiseled. And he's looking at his trainer. He goes, "Why don't you post more pictures of your muscles?" And the trainer goes, "Well, I'm not a douchebag, dude. I'm not going to post pictures of myself." He goes, "Well, who's that guy on the wall?" He goes, "Dude, you know who that is? You know, it's it was like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the Mr. Olympia." And he goes, why do you have that on your wall? He goes, "Well, he motivates me, man. He's one of the best of all time. Like, he won Mr. Olympia. Like, dude, every time I don't feel like working out, he's there, you know, to motivate me." And he goes, "Don't you think you'd have that effect on everybody?" And the point is, you kind of got a moral obligation to grow your audience when you're putting out the truth, especially if you're not. I always make it a very big statement to say, I make a lot of money and I do a lot of garage doors. That's people. I put out a newsletter and I think we charge like $15 a month. I lose money on it, like postage and the time we take to put it together. I'm like, guys, even if I sold 10,000 of these and made $1, you know, if I do the math, I pretty much every day that I don't go into work, every day, including the weekends, is worth 700 grand profit to me. That going on the next turn with PE, my percentage, 700 a day.
Wow.
So like, I don't care about the newsletter. I'm trying to I don't market in the newsletter. Like, I just wish people understood that, but
yeah, people don't though. I mean, you see the comments on like YouTube and social media on yours and mine. Everyone else is like, somebody told me yesterday to go get a job. He's like, there's no way you own that many units. Go get a job, loser. And I'm like, no, I legit do. But people cannot fathom that, one, that this is possible, or two, that you can do it and actually still be a good person and want to give back. I mean, yes, I've got selfish reasons for everything I do. We all do. Like, I would still like to give away $1 billion. That'd be fun because it's going to make me look like a really cool dude. Like, that'd be fun. Maybe I'll run for office someday. That's a good way to get there, right? Like there's still selfish reasons in there, but it could also be true that we actually want to help people because I feel, like you said, a moral obligation. Like, I remember what it was like to live in an alley. I lived in this crappy 400 square foot house in the alley of this crappy little town. And like cars would drive by 6 inches from my bedroom window. Like, I remember that. And I remember like that we had a storm hit our area and I didn't have enough money for food back then. Like, we were scraping by. So I went to stand in line at the government, whatever it was called, and they were handing out gift cards for food. Like, I remember that, having to do that. So it's like, a lot of people, I think maybe people forget when they get wealthy, but most wealthy people I know, like, they genuinely want to give back because they remember what it was like to not be successful and wealthy. And they just want to see more people get there.
I don't understand how people just scroll the internet and just leave bad comments.
Yeah.
They're living somewhere. I feel like they're really just there's so many victims and they have nothing better to do.
Victims.
It's like over and over and over.
You know why though?
Go ahead.
Well, they would have to admit that they're at fault. If they're not the victim, it means they're the cause, and nobody wants to be the cause of why they're struggling. And so if they can play a victim, or it's either not possible, you're lying, you're a douchebag, you're the problem, then they don't have to admit that they might be the problem. People's egos just can't handle that they might be the problem. Ironically, that's the solution to all of their problems, is to admit that they're the ones that caused it, and therefore they have the power to fix it, but they don't.
So today, I stood up. We have our Bring the Fire meeting. Every single employee's on there. And I said, we've analyzed the numbers, and in true form, the top 20% of the company is bringing 80% of the profit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's about 60% of you in the middle and 20% on the bottom. I said, I'm going to make you guys a deal right now. I'll Venmo you guys $500 to quit. I said, and I'll write you the best recommendation letter you've ever had. I said, because quite honestly, I can't believe in you when you don't believe in yourself.
Mm.
I'm going to give you every opportunity to win. And if you want it, I'll bleed for you. But this bracelet right here says aspire to be number one. And guys, I can't do this. I cannot get behind people that don't like to win.
Yeah.
And I hate to lose more than I like to win. And, you know, some of you guys are okay being okay. And I don't want you to say in 20 years that I worked under Tommy, because the people that I want working with me are going to say they got more than they ever intended to, that their dreams came true. And you guys, if you don't want it, I'm sorry. Just let's do each other a favor and leave. I'll write you the nicest letter. I'll send you $500. I'll send you more than that if you need that. But just, if you're not willing to push yourself and admit you need more help and ask for it, then, you know, this is a lose-lose for us. So you need to decide whether you get up or get out. Because it's not even about the money. This is about changing your life. This is about showing up for your kids. This is about showing your wife that you're a good man when you come home and you're not worn out. And it's starting to eat healthy, and it's starting to look people's in the eye when you talk, and it's showing up for your family in a whole new way. And I don't care if we set records. I don't even care if we freaking lose money this year. Like, I'm going to be okay. But I'm not going to be okay knowing I didn't do the best I could for you. And if I can't help you, I don't think you should be here. Just admit it.
I harp on this all the time. One of the number one things people complain when they want to get into real estate, they say, well, how do I get my spouse on board? My spouse doesn't want me to do it. My spouse doesn't want to support me in my dreams. And my answer almost every time is because you have let them down, because you are not the man or the woman that you should be. And so they believe like that you don't want to win, that you don't have the heart of a winner. And so they see you trying to do some new thing. Like, if you can't take out the garbage when you said you're going to take out the garbage, or you don't go play with your kid when you say you're going to play with your kid, why would they expect you to win in real estate or win in business? So of course they're not going to support you, because you don't deserve to be supported. And no one likes to hear that. But it's like my, and I don't want to just pat myself on the back here, but like, if I said anything to my wife that I was going to go start a new thing, no matter what that thing is, she's going to support me on it, because I generally never let her down. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'll do it 100% of the time, because I know that I can't lose that trust. I need that trust. So just for people out there, like, how do you become the best? How do you aim for number one? One of our core values is be the best. If there's anybody who's better at me than anything, it's not like I'm not mad at them. I'm just like I'm going to get better at it. Like, when I see how well your podcast is doing, Tommy, I'm like it's crushing mine. And I'm like, I'm going to beat him. Like, I have to do better. What's he doing? I got to do better. And it drives me.
Well, I got a whole plan to get way better. I mean, I just hired a cornhole coach, like to get better at cornhole. Like, literally, I hire coaches all the time. I want to go back to one thing, because I think it's important. And like, the first thing, I just was on stage this week, and it was only about 150 people. And I said, all you guys divest out of the one thing, your best investment, which is your home service company. Those are typical stages for me, home service. I go, a lot of you guys are going to do Airbnbs and VRBOs, and you're investing in your buddy's barber shop, and you invested in a storage facility. You're divesting out of the one thing you need. You spend 5 years of sweat equity. You go hard in the paint. You give it everything you got. And the day it starts returning, the ROI comes in. We need to buy a Harley because we want to go to Sturgis and we deserve it. We need to buy that second house on the river. We should get into Airbnb. What in the hell if you double down on the one thing that's bringing you guys everything? Because there's this crazy thing out there that nobody understands. Brandon, I don't know how to explain this to people.
Yeah, dude, I just did this. I just did a similar talk. I took out a big whiteboard and I drew like an exponential graph, like an exponential growth where it starts slow, right? And then it moves up, it kind of hockey sticks up. And I said, almost every entrepreneur I know, they get to this point after it takes like I love you said 5 years. It's 5 years to get really good traction generally for most business owners, and another 5 before you really feel like you made it. So it might be 5 or 10 years for a lot of people to really do it. At about the 5-year, 6-7 year mark, it's that hockey stick starts going up, and then they get complacent, they get bored, and they jump into real estate or Amway or something, because the thing that they were doing got repetitive. It got boring. And so they jump into something that they have no business jumping into. And then the irony is now they start back over at the beginning, and they have to go another 5 to 10 years before they feel successful at that. And people do it over and over and over their whole life. So yeah, I talk more entrepreneurs out of real estate than into real estate. Like, you should not jump into real estate investing if you have a business that has not reached its peak. Like, stay in that one thing that you're doing, stay in your lane. And if you are printing out so much money and you can't reinvest in yourself, fine, go give it to somebody like me or a syndicator, or find some way to passively invest it, or dump it into S&P 500. But yeah, don't go try to build another business and try to have, two horses in the race. It just doesn't work.
This idea of arbitrage, nobody understands this. I literally sit down to people and I'm like, okay, guys, listen. And there's a question I ask. I say, listen, when do you want to sell your business? How many people want to sell in under 5 years? There's 3 out of 150 hands that go up. And I go, why? And some of them go, well, we want to do what you do. We want to get to a $100 million valuation. Okay, why? Most broke people know how they're going to spend the money. Or like, we want to help everybody. And we got like, all you need is $5 million. I'm sorry. Like, I've done very well, but like, you could buy a nice house. You could have, like, but when you have money, every door opens. There's like, you've got access. You could hire coaches. It's this crazy thing. It's like, if I told everybody, like, sell your business within 3 years, and then here's the thing. If I was to tell you we're selling your business in 6 months, what would you do? Well, I know I'd fire this guy. I'd move this guy up. I'd get rid of the bad trucks. I'd go ahead and clean this up. I'd finally paint this area. I'd make sure, like, why don't you do that today?
Yeah.
Like, I was with Robert the other day, and Robert said, raise your hand. And then he said, hire. And it's like, you got to tell people, like, why does it take everything bad to happen or this life occurrence for you to want to change your life or get into shape or eat healthy or get rid of the brain fog? I don't get it.
Yeah, dude, it's a plague, maybe mediocrity across the majority of the world. But like, I think the solution to that, at least one of the solutions to that, is you get into a room with guys like you, who are like, they're striving for greatness and to be the best. And all of a sudden, when that becomes the norm, you start to realize, oh, like, yeah, maybe I can reach my hand a little bit higher. Maybe I can work a little harder. Maybe I can act like this is actually important. It's not just a hobby. I think most people just treat their business like a hobby. It's like, oh, this would be nice to do. I'm going to do a decent job at it. And then as a result, they're not as happy or fulfilled because it's not working as well as they wish it would. And they just struggle. And they get to the end of your life. I know an old couple. They worked in real estate for 45 years. They retired. And then they lost it all and got bankrupt in the same year. Like 45 years of building their business, bankrupt, divorced, all in the same year. I mean, they got to keep 2 properties, one for the husband, one for the wife, at the end of the bankruptcy. And now they're just living on Social Security, waiting to die because they never got great. They just were mediocre at their business their entire life. Terrible.
I know everybody. I mean, everybody's like that, dude. Like, everybody like that I meet is like, what do I do next? And I'm like, well, what are your numbers? What's your booking rate? Well, it's probably 90%. Okay. It's only one of a few things: booking rate, conversion rate, average ticket, or cost per lead. Dude, that is your answers. You don't know anything. You don't even understand. I had a guy that just sold a business to me. We're closing on the 23rd. He goes, Tommy, this profit's EBITDA is 2.2 million. And I go, okay. I go, we're still going to do a quality of earnings. He goes, you don't understand. This is what I paid taxes on last year. I go, I don't care what you pay taxes on. I've had a lot of shitty CPAs. You know what he was at? 1.55.
Wow.
He thought he paid taxes on 2.2 profit. I'm like, oh my God. Like literally. And I saw his tax, like, he sent them to me, and I'm going, dude, like this is the Brandon, I had to make a lot of mistakes to get here. And listen, I'm very humble about all the mistakes. And I know, listen, I'm an overnight success of 2 decades of mistakes, right? Like, yeah. And I understand people are listening going, dude, it's easy for you to say. And I say this quite a bit. But listen, man, I fall forward a lot. But I make calculated choices. I lose money, but I learn, and I don't make the same mistake twice. I don't make the same mistake twice. And I just wish people understood that. Like, I saw this quote today, and this quote was like banger, dude. And I'm actually going to talk about it at my event. It's a mistake repeated more than once is a choice. A mistake repeated more than once is a choice. But yet, the definition of insanity, people just keep doing it. And
over and
I
over
really
again.
wanted to ask you, how many employees do you have?
Somewhere 100 and 150, 160 maybe across the different companies. Most of that is in the management side, property management.
And everybody says to me, how do you find so many great people? And I'm curious, like, what are some of, number one, how do you recruit and hire? Let's start
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So everybody, this goes back to personal brand. Almost all of my best people, like all my executives, all of my, like in all my companies, all of them have come from my audience of some kind. They're people who I've met at an event, or they signed up for a mastermind that I was hosting or something like that. Or even if I put the application out on my Instagram and I get 500 people to apply. Uh, Again, one of the biggest reasons to have a personal brand, an online personal brand, is to attract great people. Because great people, and like my people are great, and I probably don't pay them enough. But the reality is, they will work for me because of the brand that I've built and what I stand for. And so I get better people than I deserve because of the brand that I have. And so I'm eternally thankful for those people. And I try to share equity as much as I can. Like most of my executives have equity in my different companies, but yeah, it begins with the personal brand and my audience. We then funnel everybody through a series of tests. We call it the gauntlet. You have to run the gauntlet. And it's usually like 6 or 7 tests. And the first one here, it goes back to your point of mediocrity we just talked about. The first test is very simple. Now I'm going to give away my secret here a little bit. So people apply, they'll get through the first round. The first round is send me a video explaining why you're good for this job. That's the test. Just send me a video. 60% of people do not send the video. These are people who took the time to apply from my audience, and they immediately disqualify themselves right away. They don't send the video. Okay, so they're gone. And then the next test is usually I don't even watch the videos. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, all I want to know is, can you follow some basic instructions? Anyway, this tests get harder and harder and more specific for the actual what we're hiring for. So by the time we get down to 6 or 7 tests, there's typically 3 or 4 people left. And that's the time that we'll do an interview and then pick somebody. But by that point, it's usually pretty obvious that one person just stands out. And I've had a pretty phenomenal track record. I mean, I've had to let go of very few people going through that process. In fact, the only people I've lost have been people that maybe sort of I cheated around that process because I like them so much that I'm like, well, let's just put you at the top. You can skip the first few tests. Let's just get you in because I know you're going to be great. And then
Yeah, but I'd be curious, Brandon, on that, because especially for me in a blue collar industry, if it's super basic, yes, but some of these guys are technology challenged. Some of them aren't really great readers. They didn't get past 10th grade, but I look for somebody that's just super great eye contact that I go have a beer with, that's smiling all the time, that's cup half full, that literally makes me smile. And you meet his family or her family, and they're just they respect one another. Like but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'd be curious to see.
Yeah, I can't hire someone I always say that I can't hire someone I can't have a beer with. Like that's like a one of my kind of principles is I can't hire someone I won't have a beer with. So there is that vibe check for sure. And a lot of the tests are simply like, for example, in the management department, right? If we're hiring a resident manager at a mobile home park, like you're right. Like these people did not graduate high school most of the time. So like the process for hiring them, and again, they don't usually come from my audience, but the process for hiring them is going to be much more simple. Like, I sent you an email. Can you write an email back? Like just something that's actually, in their job. But then I have to know that they're good people. I mean, good people doing good. It's one of our like core values in our company. It's like they have to be a good person. And I qualify that as somebody I can have a beer with, somebody who's not going to cheat me, somebody who's going to put the higher good above just their own selfish desires. But man, it's hard. And then sometimes they just don't work out. You know what? Another challenge. I'm curious if you face this. When I hire people, most people I hire are pretty super ambitious people. And part of that's just my audience is real estate investors and entrepreneurs. So they're really excited about growth. And so there's always that challenge of like, I know that they are actively trying to get out of the job I hired them for. What I mean by that is like everybody I hire, they're entrepreneurs at heart. And so I tend to hire, which I love hiring entrepreneurs, but they typically aren't going to stay for 20 years in most of those roles. And so that's something I've just learned. Like, that's why I have to share equity with people. I have to make them know that they will make more being a small fish in my pond than a big fish on their own. And I've been pretty effective at doing it. But, we've had a few people leave. I had one of the best self-storage operators in the country, one of the best guys in the country come work for me. I mean, he might be the best in the country. And like, we got him because he believed in my brand and all that. And he lasted 6 months, and then he went out and did his own thing because he realized, oh, I can make a lot more on my own. I'm the best. And we still stay in touch, and we can consult with him a little bit. But yeah, it's the challenge of hiring entrepreneurs sometimes.
Well, you can make them entrepreneurs, and that's where you get equity incentive programs. You gotta know the right people. When you identify the best of the best, especially on an operational level, like a COO, they need to have something to hold their feet down. They call them golden handcuffs, and I don't like that word because really it's an incentive program that keeps you motivated. Yeah. But I got a lot of, man, you got my brain like going crazy. So if you raised $100 million. I want to do some math real quick. Let's just pretend Tommy Mello raised $100 million.
Yeah.
And let's say I averaged the arbitrage. Let's say I'm saying I'm buying businesses for 5x.
Yep.
And I would do a little bit better than that, depending on the size. But let's just say I'm buying businesses at 2 million of EBITDA.
Yep.
2 million of EBITDA. So I'm paying 10 million per business. Now I'd probably leave them in and have them roll equity, but I want to do some quick math. So that allows me to buy 10 businesses. Are you following?
Yep.
Because it's 2 million of EBITDA, I'm paying 5x.
Yep.
So 10 times 10 gets me to that 100 million. So there's no doubt in my mind, because what I would do is I'd focus on the same industry. And I could do this in gutters, fences, flooring, roofing, you name it, windows, anything. So what I would probably try to do here is just simply make them walk, talk, and act the same. So I'd put data science, FP&A people, build the hub, and almost like a franchise, but they report up to us. And we make them on the same CRM, the same, it wouldn't be QuickBooks. It would probably be a more sophisticated, like Intact. And so my plan would be just fix their marketing, get their KPIs dialed, and just run them up to 4 million each, right?
Yep.
So now we're at 40 million of EBITDA. Now I know in my sleep I could get 15x for this.
Yep.
So 15x, and I would do that in 3 years. That's 600 million.
Yeah.
So, and listen, nothing's easy, but because I know this stuff so good, it depends on if the owners are douchebags or not. And it depends on if they're staying on and how good the company is. How many levers can I turn? But that's $600 million on a $100 million investment. If I took 20%, I take 100, but minus the 100 million to invest. That's 500 million. Now, 20% of that, not a bad day. That's $100 million. And the 400 million goes to the investors. That's a good ROI.
It would be a phenomenal ROI for them. And you know what some syndicators do in raising capital like this is they do, and we've done this before too, and it's not bad, it's more simple. You just say, hey, you get 100% of all profits and cash flow, investors, until you get your money back. Once you get all your money back, we just split everything 50-50 going forward. So imagine making that way. You're not necessarily projecting like all these like different waterfall structures and all that. You say, hey, I don't get anything, but once you have your money back and you put in $1 million, you get your $1 million. Everything going forward, we're going to split 50-50. Most people are like, oh yeah, that seems fair.
Would you ever consider saying, I'll give you 8% on your money for 5 years and then everything after that, because the time value of money? Would you, because if you're like, you want to give me my money back in 5 or 7 years, that sucks. Like I'd want to be guaranteed something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways you can spin it. You can definitely spin it that way. You can put numbers on it. You can do, what we do is waterfalls. Hey, after certain amounts, we get more. There's after a certain number of years, it changes. But yeah, one of the smartest real estate investors I know, a guy named Ken McElroy, he's down in the Phoenix area. But Ken does a lot more. He advised me. We went to lunch for a year and a half ago, and he was like, Brandon, you just got to keep it simple. He's like, people don't need complicated. Just keep it simple. Give them half. He's like, give them 100% of everything until they get their money back, and then give them half. And everyone's happy with that. And you'll make more money on the back end, even though it's simple. And I'm like, so using that formula for your example, you go and make whatever that was, $500 million. Now potentially you're keeping $250 million, or they get their $100 million back, and then you're splitting the rest. It's still a great return for them.
No, I like that better.
Yeah,
I got to meet this Ken McElroy. I love.
Yeah, happy to make that intro.
I failed at, and I was just talking to my podcast team, is when I get a podcast like someone like you, You probably know 10 people I need to talk to that do just as well as you, that you are really entertained. I had Robert Cialdini in here the other day. He's got a few to give me. Man, there are podcasts. I'm making a new rule for the podcast that we're going to have a small committee of 3 or 4 people. And if they listen to it and don't feel like it was fire, it's not making the airwaves, because we've got too many great listeners now. They want to be entertained. They want the knowledge. They want the motivation. And that's my number one thing is I don't want to put something on there that I wouldn't be very, very like if I listened to it, I'd want to be entertained. Not even entertained. Like I'm not Joe Rogan. I want to be educational.
Yeah.
What
I want to
other
know that my life is improved. Yeah. Like I'm wealthier, healthier, something.
And last year you raised 300 million, which is nuts. What kind of messages are you putting on social media to make people go, oh yeah, I'm in?
Yeah, it started organic. So it started, I just like throw it on my Instagram story. Hey, everyone, I got a deal. Now, I'll admit, it's gotten way harder to raise money right now than it's ever been before. When you can get 5% in a savings account, people are way less likely to go and invest in a real estate deal because they're like, well, I like my 5% guaranteed from the FDIC. Like it's a lot harder right now. It's 10 times harder now than it was last year or the year before. So in the past, I would just throw a thing on my Instagram story. Hey, I'm raising money. And within 24 hours, we'd have $30 million committed. It was wonderful and wild. And a lot of that also, we had an email list. We build an email list up. We got 100,000 accredited investors on our email list. So people who have said that they're wealthy enough to invest in these kind of deals. So you send out an email to 100,000 people and, 1,000 people raise their hand. Yeah, I can put in 100 grand. So a lot of it is just basic internet marketing. Today, though, we have to do a lot more, because I don't say I've tapped out, but I've probably largely tapped out my email list. Like if they're going to invest, they've already invested with me and they've probably invested all their money. And these aren't short-term deals. These are 5 to 10 year holds. So it's not like they got their money back already. It's only been a few years. So I've had to expand my audience. And through that, we've done a lot of paid ads. We spend about $1 million a year on paid ads right now. So we'll put out ads on, sometimes it's me walking through the property going, hey, everyone, I'm Brandon Turner, author of the book on rental property investing. Maybe you've read it, sold 1 million copies. And I'm buying this property, so establish some credibility. I know what I'm doing. I got $1 billion in real estate and I'm buying this property and I'm looking for some help to take it down. If you want to be a partner with me, you get the majority of the profits. I do all the work. If that sounds good, book a call with our team and just have a conversation, no obligation. That's typically the kind of the angle we approach it with is like, and I said earlier, I never really finished that thought. The reason I donate my salary away is not because I'm just like a goody two shoes wanting to help people. I do want to help people, but it's the best sales pitch in the world. Like it's the best, like when I can tell my investors with a straight face, and it's 100% true that I don't make money unless you make money first. Like I'm not taking a salary. There's no some side gig thing. There's no game here. I literally don't make money until you make money first. This has to work, or this is a giant waste of a decade of my life. Like people trust.
I remember
that.
you saying that, and I get it a lot more now.
Yeah,
Can I give you a piece of advice?
Please.
So Grant Cardone works with this guy named Brandon Dawson.
Yeah. I need a Brandon Dawson.
And I've been on their stage, smart guys. They're the ones that found Gary Brecka.
Yeah.
They gave him 300 grand to own something like 70% of everything he puts out.
Wow.
So you go find people that you know, and you make them, and you turn on your social media, your personal branding talent.
Yeah.
You get them co-author, you get them books, you start a podcast with them, you get them the first 25 guests, you put the social media team behind it. Now you're not, and you find people that are different than you to talk to different audiences.
Yep.
Now, guess what? They got to be interesting, fun. They got to be funny and like get loud and just, emotional. But you get 5 of those guys, those proteges, and you get the right contract, but they're excited. And then you become a content factory.
Yeah.
And they're working underneath you. Think about that, because you've already exhausted your list. What if you had somebody like a Gen Z and you had this generation and somebody older that's very thoughtful that's talking to this tribe? You know what I would go after? I'd go after somebody that's 60 years old, good looking, that's entertaining, that understands it, that people trust immediately, that's funny. And that brings you a whole new slew of investors.
It's a great idea, man. It's kind of I look at everything Cardone does, I'm basically just copying at a worse way. He's just so much better at it than me, but we do the exact same game. Cardone, actually, the reason I didn't say this earlier, but the reason I ended up going in the syndication game that I did because I interviewed Cardone on the Bigger Pockets podcast, and it clicked while I'm talking to him. I was like, oh shoot, this is awesome. This is what Cardone is doing. And so now that's what I'm doing. He's building a social media brand, an online brand, to raise money to finance massive apartment deals, commercial real estate deals, in which he takes 20, 30% of it. And therefore, he doesn't need any of his own money. And he can buy billions of dollars of real estate using other people's money with it's all non-recourse debt, which means they don't come after you if it goes bad. So there's almost no risk other than reputational risk to become a billionaire very quickly. This is before he was a billionaire. And I saw him do that and I was like, oh, shoot.
I don't think he is a billionaire yet, but
yeah, I think he says he's a billionaire only because I think the strength of his brand, he probably counts that as a $1 billion, if you 5X his whatever.
I love the idea of just all this stuff. I just love this podcast, man. You've given me so much good idea. Like, are you in a self-publishing or do you get a publishing house?
The 5 books I've written, we opened a publishing company, so it's kind of a hybrid, I guess. We actually went and built our own publishing company at Bigger Pockets. So technically, it's a hybrid. If I do it again, I'll probably go traditional, because I really want that New York Times bestseller title. It's just an ego thing. I fully admit that. There's no value to it other than my own ego. I would just love to be able to say I'm a New York Times bestselling author. And you're not going to get that if you hybrid it or you got to go through one of the major companies typically.
When building a personal brand, what are the top 5, 3-5 mistakes you made, like social media, videographers, content strategy, whatever you want to go with. If someone wants to go out there and say they're bought in, I need to build a personal brand, what are some of the pitfalls?
Yeah, I think people obsess about quality too much, meaning like video quality, audio quality, whatever. I think that it's more important. I think reps are more important than quality. So if you spend a week to make one video and it looks really, really good, it probably won't hit. It takes 100 videos for one of mine to hit well. And so I've just learned that volume is the game there. And so I just pump out massive volume, but it's volume, but volume with the emphasis on, like, I learned this, Mr. Beast talks about this, that like 90% of their effort is in the title. And so on social media videos, like 90% of the effort should be in the first 3 seconds of the video. And so for a long time, I wouldn't even think about the first few seconds. I just make the video, and shockingly, it wouldn't do very well. And so now today we spend a lot more time focusing on the first few seconds. I made the mistake of making content when I felt like making content. The same way I used to write. When I wrote books, the first couple of books I wrote when I felt like writing. And then I learned, there's a great quote. I think Stephen King is the original guy who said it. He said, I only write when inspiration strikes. Thankfully, inspiration strikes every morning at 9 a.m. in my desk, like at my desk. It's like, in other words, like you show up and do the work every single day, and you're going to start hitting every single day, or, you're going to get the work done. So now, like, we have a system where it's like, I create whatever 30 pieces of content a week. Every Wednesday for 4 hours, I'm creating content. And it becomes a system. So content becoming a system is one of the most important things I can stress. And then just steal. And what I mean by that is just rip off, like R&D, like have your R&D department, you rip off and duplicate, right? You just rip off and duplicate what other people are doing. You're like, oh, that worked for Dan Martell. Like Dan did really good at this thing. Why did that do well? I'm not going to copy word for word. It's his story, but I'm going to take what worked for Dan. I'm going to go do it to me. And then almost all the time it works. Here's a real clear example of that. I once saw a video on YouTube called How to Analyze a Rental Property on the back of a napkin. And that video had 150,000 views, but the person that made it only had a few hundred subscribers. And I was like, oh, this hit. Like, obviously people on YouTube cared. So I made a video called How to Analyze a Rental Property. And I didn't want to copy it exactly. So I was like using the 4-square method. I made up this 4-square box, and I just kind of used it to teach this how to analyze a property. That video has like 4 million views today. I just rip off and duplicate what somebody else did. So, rather than trying to just reinvent the wheel, it's like, why did this work for that person? I'm going to put a spin on it, but I'm going to do the same psychological hook to myself. And tends to work. And then just consistency, man. Like, it's 10 years. Like you said earlier, it's like, I'm an overnight success of 10 years of posting on Instagram. So
we and you are getting together by the end of the year. I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, but I want to
would love it.
I want to get you back to Coeur d'Alene, and you're going to be at this event this weekend that I'll be at.
We'll see you there.
Yeah, Ryan Pinetta, great guy, another real estate guy. He's only giving me 30 minutes. I'm like, dude, but 30 minutes, I'm just going to bring fire.
Yeah,
I know it's
I think I have
not naughty.
35 or 40. It's tough. Talk
Yeah,
fast.
it's all good. I get it. So, Brandon, how can people find out more about you?
Then my Instagram, Beardy, so Beardy, beard with a Y at the end of it, Beardy Brandon. Yeah, that's pretty much everything you'll find there. Yeah, there's, the link in bio has all my links to everything. But yeah, Beardy Brandon. And I got a text message newsletter I send out every week. You can get to there, link in my bio on Instagram. Just I send out whatever book I'm reading and what I'm learning from it every week. So just a simple newsletter via text. Kind of fun.
Yeah, listen, I'd like to get together somewhere in this, not in Hawaii if possible, because it's such
Yeah,
a
I'm
pain
actually
to get
coming.
there,
Are you still down in Arizona?
yeah.
I'll be there for a few days in October for a mastermind. I think it's October. And then I'll be up in Coeur d'Alene in August.
I'll
So
make
I don't know
sure
if you guys here.
Allison will reach out.
Yeah.
Brandon, the way I close out here is I'm going to give you anything you want to close us out.
All right. I'm going to close it out this way. It's actually kind of a recap of what you talked about earlier, where there's only a few actions actually that make you successful in like those businesses. And I'll say in life, there's only a few actions that actually give you anything that you want, right? If you want to lose weight, there's only a few actions you actually have to do. It's like go to the gym, eat less calories. Like there's a list, right? So in other words, the line that I use all the time is you get the result of what you repeatedly do. If there's one thing you can take from me in my entire life, that's what I'm going to be preaching for the rest of my life. You get the results of what you repeatedly do. The problem is people are not consistent and persistent in those things. We all know how to lose weight and get a six pack, but most people don't have it. So if you can just figure out how to be consistent and you've defined those actions, which you get by listening to podcasts and going to masterminds and going to events, like you just learn from people who have done it. They tell you the actions. Tommy will tell you everything you need to do to grow your home service business. So like, you don't need to read 500 books. You know the actions. Figure out a way to be consistent and persistent, and you can win in anything. And that's your marriage, your faith, your parenting, any of it. It's all the same. Figure out the 3, 4, 5, 10 things you got to do. Track them, get some accountability, whatever you got to do, and get it done. That's it. That's all success is.
I love it, Brandon. Listen, I appreciate you doing this while you're in Coeur d'Alene, brother. And I'm going to reach out to you, man. I really appreciate you having me out in Hawaii and doing this podcast. I think you're entertaining, smart. You're a great dad, a great husband to your wife. You're living the dream that most people envy, and you're still giving back. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Let's get together soon.
We will. I'll make it. I will for sure. You got my brain spinning. So, and anybody that listens know I'm a man of action. I'm going to do I'm going to get the answers I'm out to seek. So it's going to be fun.
Love it. Love it. Thank you.
All right, Brandoni.